The news here, the news from the Talk Radio News Service, brought to you today by goatsfortheoldgoat.com. Ellen Ratner's personal charity, she being the old goat, God bless her. You can give a goat to help a rescued slave, literally a slave, a person who has been enslaved. This is in Sudan, and Ellen goes over there several times a year and helps these folks out. And you can receive a photo of your goat and the person that you helped, and it may well be Ellen holding that picture. I know that you do that a lot, at goatsfortheoldgoat.com. Hey, Ellen.
Well, thank you. I got to tell you, it's really interesting, this chained CPI that you've been talking about, Consumer Price Index, which over the course of 15 years...
For Social Security.
That's right. Over the course of 15 years would result in somebody losing about $6,000 in income.
Per year?
No, over 15 years. But
that's a lot of money for somebody who's living on
a fixed
Security.
income. That's a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And think if you had that money in the bank account and could live off the interest. I mean, you can't live off the interest, but you had the interest.
Right.
So this is a little trick that your friends, the Republicans, are trying to put in. And I know they're not your friends, but, you know, the way I talk.
Yeah.
And so this is really a concern. The AFL-CIO came out against it today. I mean, there's a lot of them. You had Gerald Nadler from New York. I mean, everybody's aware of this little trick, and the White House has got to hold fast on it.
Yeah. Now, I read the story today that the White House was considering putting the changed CPI on the table. In other words, slowing. So the net effect of this is that Social Security benefits, the annual cost of living increase, would not keep up with inflation. And so over time, people on Social Security get less and less money. And as time passes, Social Security benefits become less and less generous or whatever. Where did that story come from? Is the White House floating this as a trial balloon?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I think it's actually coming from the Republicans. I think that they are... Oh, I don't think the White House is floating that as a trial balloon because I don't think they want to do that, and they know the reaction that they would get from the AFL-CIO, from AARP. I mean, AARP would go nuts.
So this is John Boehner and his bunch. You know.
This is the Boehner bunch, yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Speaking of the Boehner bunch, so the president said he would, anything over $250,000, basically, forget it. He did not want to see a tax increase in that group of people,
right.
And that anybody who makes over $250,000 should be charged more. Makes sense. So then it looks like the Republicans came back to them with this $400,000 deal. Okay, anything under $400,000. Well, the president wasn't very happy about that, but, a compromise,
$400 grand is about what a senator makes if you toss in a couple of good speaking fees.
Right. Well, I don't know that can they collect, but anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's certainly what they're going to make when they're out lobbying.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of deal we heard floated, $400,000. Now, Speaker Boehner says, well, we have a plan B. And that plan B is $1 million a year.
I thought that's where he started. And the president knocked that down and said, won't do it.
It came back.
So the Republicans are negotiating with themselves?
Their plan A is their plan B.
Amazing.
I mean, it's really quite astounding. So in an unprecedented thing, because usually Jay Carney will respond to something but not issue a statement. So just a few minutes ago, maybe an hour ago or so, the White House issued the statement, the parameters of a deal are clear and the president is willing to continue to work with Republicans to reach a bipartisan solution that averts the fiscal cliff, protects the middle class, helps the economy, puts our nation on a fiscally sustainable path. But he is not willing to accept a deal that does not ask enough of the very wealthiest in taxes and instead shifts the burden to the middle class and seniors. The Speaker's Plan B approach doesn't meet this test.
Why isn't anybody discussing Wall Street? Let's tax Wall Street. Let's go back to the securities transaction tax that we had in the United States from 1896 until 1964. Or for that matter, like guys like Mitt Romney and Paris Hilton.
Well, Wall Street's very happy. I mean, honestly, the market went up.
Yeah.
Because they know they're home free.
Well, how come nobody's discussing the capital gains loophole? There's an enormous amount of money.
I don't even want, I always say to people, wait, I have investments that make 15% of the year while I sit on my duff, and some guy is working their tail off in a restaurant, and they have to pay 25% taxes. There's something wrong with that story.
Yeah, there is. There is. It's just it's fundamentally immoral. And yet that's our tax code, and that's what Mitt Romney ran on, was that he was proud that his top tax rate was 15%.
A couple other quick things here. The NRA made a first statement since the shooting, and they said they are prepared to make sure that this never happens again. They took down, as I think we were talking about last night, their Facebook page. They had 1 million people on their Facebook page. That's gone.
Well, they're still doing the radio show.
Well, they're doing that, and they actually have some Twitter accounts still open, but they're whatever. By the way, this fiscal cliff that everybody's all flipped out about will not affect most small businesses. That the Economic Policy Institute issued a report today. They said the current fiscal cliff debate uses this term small business, but fails to acknowledge that only 3.6 of all businesses that fit that definition would be affected if the top tax rates were raised.
Wow. Yeah. So. But it's all in how you define small business. But
small business can go up to something like 500 employees.
And
it's
billions and billions
Tom
of dollars.
Hartmann, Louise Hartmann, or Ellen Ratner small business.
Right. Yeah, we actually have genuine small businesses.
Right.
By the way, you are wearing a crystal heart that was made by freed slaves in Sudan.
That's right.
And you are offering those at goatsfortheoldgoat.com.
Goatsfortheoldgoat.com. That's right.
And
we can get it to you. If you order today, we can get it to you by Christmas.
And these women who made this
have seen or heard somebody killed in front of them. Actually, not all of them are slaves. Some of them were slaves, but all of them are victims of the war. We call them survivor hearts.
So these are all 100% of the women who make these have seen someone killed in front of them.
They get into my post-traumatic stress disorder group, and they can't make the hearts unless they have been in the group for at least a year.
Wow.
Yeah, so we pair it with mental health.
And you set this thing up yourself.
I did, actually,
yeah. And
I did.
In fact, I've been there with Ellen in
I'd
South
like you to
Sudan.
come back.
I should. We should do our program. We did this show for a week from there using your satellite phone. We should do it again. Ellen Ratner with the Talk Radio News Service, talkradionews.com. The website she was talking about, goatsfortheoldgoat.com. That's right.
You got it.
And thank you, Old Goat in chief. Much appreciated, Ellen. We'll be back with more of the Thom Hartmann program right after the news.